Bruchim Haboyim. Welcome everybody. I hope those of us that are fasting are having an easy day. Today is Tanis Esther. Tonight is going to be Purim. So we're going to continue with the Mishnayos about Purim. We started last week. We went off our regular topic, which has been a Gemara shir. We've been dealing with Jewish civil law, contracts and real estate law and so on. But this week and last week, we thought we'd do a little bit on the Mishnayos of Purim. So we're going to continue with the Mishnayos of Purim. And if you look at in your handout, I folded it in the right spot. So the first highlighted Mishnah. Okay, and if you are viewing this online, we are in Masechta Megillah, the first parak, the fourth Mishnah. And if you need the handouts are in the back there. Okay, I'll wait a minute until everybody gets it. You can come in. I'm getting a message, but I don't know what the message is. Whatever. Tell me. Oh, thank you. Okay. Wow, I almost forgot. Right. One of the things that we do here is when we start a shiur, a class, we give credit. We extend hakaras hatov to those people who are thoughtful enough to sponsor the learning in the shul by making donations, usually in memory of a loved one. So today's sponsors, we have a year of learning sponsored by the Friends of Saul Chapman, Yisrael Kalman Memosha. A year is sponsored by the Friends of Judy Garber in her memory, Yehudis Bas Shalom. A year of learning by the Friends of Alvin Greenfield in his memory, Avram Ben Yaakov. A month of learning sponsored by Josh and Carol Sanborn in memory of his father, Shmuel Aryeh Ben Baruch, and his mother, Chiana Bat Aryeh Lev. A month by Andrea and David Dolney in memory of her mother, Adel Tzina Bat Shimshon. A month of learning by Jill and Perry Meltzer in memory of her father, Yaakov Ben Yosef. A month of learning by Meir and Chaya Sarah Briban and Michael Briban in memory of Meir and Michael's father, Zelig Ben Moshe, their mother, Bela Bat Elimelech, their uncle, Mendel Ben Elimelech, and Chaya Sarah's father, Menashe Ben Yitzchak Isaac. May their neshamos have an aliyah. So just to continue the style that the previous class that Marty did is I'm going to ask you a question. You know, today we have a fixed Jewish calendar, right? I can tell you when my youngest grandson was born, when is it going to be his bar mitzvah and what parsha they're going to read, because the calendar is set, right? But back then the calendar was not set, right? How was the calendar established? How was Rosh Chodesh established every month?
Witnesses look at the new moon.
Witnesses, that's right. Witnesses saw the new moon. They came to Yerushalayim. They testified in court. They were interrogated. They were interrogated separately. And the Gemara says that Rabban Gamliel had certain shapes that he would show them. He asked them, did the moon look like this or like that? And when he was satisfied and the court was satisfied that the testimony that they brought was true, they would establish the new moon. Same way when it was necessary to establish a leap year, right? We are in a leap year right now. We're in a Jewish leap year, right? The regular Jewish year is 355 days or 352 days, but this year is going to be about 385 days because it's an extra month. So the establishment of those months was also done when the rabbis realized they had to do it because Pesach had to be Chag Aviv, it had to be in the spring. So what happens if came the month of Adar, came the 14th of Adar, and they read the Megillah, and then it was decided to make a leap year. So what happens now? They've established a second month of Adar, and comes now the 14th of Adar Beis. They already read the Megillah a month ago. What do they do? What do you think?
Read it again.
Gary says, read it again. Practical man. Exactly right. And the Mishnah says, Karu es HaMegillah ba'adar harishon if they read the Megillah in the first Adar, Vinis Abra Hashana, and they made it into a leap year, right? Koren Osav Adar Sheni. They read it again in the second Adar. And the Mishnah continues, says, Ein bein Adar Harishon, Adar Hasheni. There's no difference between the first Adar and the second Adar except Ela Kriyas Megillah Matanas Levionim. So nowadays, when we know, or even then, they knew that it was going to be an Iber Yor, a Shana Mu'uberes, a leap year. So they knew at the beginning of Adar Aleph that it was going to be 2 Adars, so they would not read the Megillah on the 14th and the 15th, but otherwise the 2 months were the same. That they would observe the 2 months the same way, Adar Rishon and Adar Sheni the same way. Okay, so now if you turn over, and we're going to skip a little bit because I wanted to concentrate just on Mishnayos that had relation to the Megillah itself. So if we turn over, we're going to start the first Mishnah in the second parak. So it's Parak Sheni, Mishnah Aleph. Okay, just turn it over. You don't have to flip the page. Just turn your hand it over. And there are strict rules as to how the Megillah is to be read. So suppose somebody decided to read the Megillah out of order. You know, like when you get a mystery book, some people always want to open to the last page, right? They want to know how it comes out. So same way. So suppose somebody gets up and is going to read the Megillah, and as he's getting started, a lady in the back row says, "How does it end?" So instead of starting right from the beginning, he reads out the end because this person was in such suspense. She didn't want to think that the Jews were going to be destroyed, right? Just like, you know, you watch a Western on TV and you don't know how it's going to come out, but you know pretty confidently the hero is going to survive. Otherwise, there's no show again next week. And we're all here, right? So obviously we know how the Purim story came out, but this person wanted to hear it read out of order. So the Mishnah says, "Hakarei Megillah lamafreya." If you read it out of order, lo yatsa, you have not fulfilled the mitzvah. It has to be read the way that it's written. It has to be read from start to end. So how about Kra'ah al peh? So, you know, we're having a little difficulty this year. We have only 2 minyanim tonight for Megillah reading because a third Baal Koreh has not been found. Because for whatever reason, we only have 2, so that's why it might be a little crowded. So my advice to you is to get there early tonight because it might be crowded in shul. But suppose somebody read it, knows it by heart. He doesn't know necessarily how to read it from the parchment, but he knows it by heart. Or Kra'ah Targum, or he's going to read it in another language, or B'chol Lashon, or any language at all. The Mishnah says Lo Yatsa. You have not fulfilled the mitzvah. You have to read it from a parchment the way that it's written. Aval, this is an interesting one. Koren osa lela'azos belaz. So suppose you have a group of people who speak French, and you have a Megillah that's written on parchment in French. The Mishnah says you can read it to them in that language. So if you're reading to people who speak a foreign language in their language on a Megillah that's written the correct way, it is kosher. You can do it.
So David, extending it, if I somehow come into possession of a Megillah written in English,
Right?
am I Yotzer if I read the Megillah in English? Or can a Megillah in English be read in shul? Why
Okay.
French?
So first of all, I just picked French because that word laz, I learned it when I was a little kid, how Rashi used that. That was his Rashi Tevos. It was abbreviation Lashon Am Zor, right? Because Rashi was French. Rashi lived in France. And so once in a while you'll see he'll put a word in that he maybe has trouble translating from the Aramaic of the Gemara. He'll translate it into French because he doesn't have a Hebrew equivalent or something, and he'll say balaz, that it's written in French. So that's why I said French. It could be Spanish, could be, you know, if you're in Miami, Spanish is probably going to come in handy for you.
Isn't it boiled down to that you have to read it in the language that the people will understand it? The only language that you don't have to read it in that they understand is if you read it in Lashon HaKodesh, Hebrew. If you read it in Hebrew, you're Yotze, even if you don't understand Hebrew.
Exactly right. So
Right.
what Gary is saying is that if you only understand a particular language, let's say it's French, let's say Spanish, whatever it is, and it's read to you in Spanish, provided the Megillah is written correctly and so on, you are in fulfillment of the mitzvah. However, if you don't understand Hebrew, and you're sitting in the audience tonight listening to the Megillah being read, and you're paying attention, even though you don't understand it, you still have fulfilled your mitzvah. Hebrew is the only language that works for. So it says, Halo is somebody who's a foreign speaker, Sheshama Ashuris, he hears it being read in Hebrew, Yotza. He has fulfilled his mitzvah. So even though he doesn't understand Hebrew, he still fulfills it. And if you look at the bottom of the page in the commentary, the Kahati, so we'll just kind of read it together. Sakari Samagillah Mefreya. So the beginning of the Mishnah says, Shakaris Hamauchar b'Megillah lefnei Masha Kaseh b'Techila. He reads what happened later before what happened sooner when he's reading the Megillah. So he's reading it out of order. Lo Yotza, he did not fulfill the mitzvah. And the Kahati, the commentary continues. The Gemara Lomdim Zeh Mimasha Kasuv. They learn from what it says in the Megillah in Esther. Vayomim Elu Nizkarim V'Nasim. These days were remembered and they were done. Huksha Zechira La Asira. So he compared by analogy remembering Zechira to Asiyah, to doing. Says Ma Asiyah La Mafreya Lo. Just as you can't do something in reverse, right? I mean, if you have a certain kind of camera, maybe you can back up the film, but basically you can't do actions in reverse, right? Shehare efshar shehei chamisha so lefnei arba. So it's impossible that the 15th of Adar can come out before the 14th. So everything has to go in order when you're doing it. So he says, Av sechira l'mafreya. So too, you don't remember it by commemorating it, by reading about it. You don't do that out of order either. V'yesh mevarim hatam, and some explain the reason. She'ein parsum neis b'kriya zu. It's because why do we read the Megillah in public? What is the whole point? Is that we want to publicize the mitzvah of what happened. We want to bring attention to what happened. So doing it that way says because you're not fulfilling that obligation of publicizing the mitzvah because you're doing it all out of order. And if somebody says can't read it all, he tries to read it by heart, or kra targum. Targum means that he's reading in Arami, in Aramaic, ve'eno mevino, and he doesn't understand Aramaic. So to Gary's point, he's reading Aramaic, but he doesn't understand Aramaic. So in that case, b'chol lashon, or any language, o b'chol lashon, chutz milashon hakodesh, ve'eno mevin b'osa lashon, and if he reads it in any language other than Hebrew, and he does not understand that foreign language, so if the person tells a story in Spanish and does not understand Spanish, even though the Megillah is written in that language, right? Lo yotza, he does not fulfill the mitzvah. Shenamar, because the pasuk says in the Megillah, Hayamim ahem nizkarim, that these days are to be commemorated. V'kasuv kasov zosikarim b'sefer, that has to be written a certain way in the book. V'lomdim b'gzera shava, they learn again by an analogy, a comparison. Zechira, the same word is used. Mashem b'sefer, afkan b'sefer, just sham, just as there it's written in the book, so too here. Lefichach im kara al peh lo yotza, so you can't do it by heart because it has to be in the book. It has to be written out. You can't just do it by heart. Vim kara targum obachal lashon, or you read it in Aramaic or in any language. Hoel ve'enu mevin b'osu lashon, since he doesn't understand that language, right? If you read it to me in Italian, for example, it'd be very nice, so I wouldn't understand it, right? So afal pi shakari mitoch aksav, even though the person's reading it from a book that was, or a Megillah was written by a sofer and everything else, lo yotza, does not fulfill the mitzvah. Aval koronasa, but if you do read the Megillah, as the Megillah la'azos, to people who are foreign speakers, ela she'enam mevi'in lashon hakodesh, ela lashon laz, people who don't understand Hebrew. In other words, if somebody does understand Hebrew, he should probably hear it in Hebrew. But if somebody does not understand Hebrew, and he has the opportunity to hear it read to him in his language, in that case, v'lashon zeh she'en mevinim, and it has to be written in that language. But if somebody who speaks a foreign language but hears it in Hebrew, he hears it in Hebrew, he has fulfilled his obligation. So that's the only language, as was pointed out before, that even if you don't understand it, you'll fulfill the mitzvah if you hear it read in Hebrew. Next one is an interesting one. Whenever I read this, it's very surprising to me, but apparently that is the case. Where the second Mishnah, just turn over to the second Mishnah, and it says, Kra'a Seirugin u'misnamnim. If somebody is reading the Megillah, and he's pausing in between the psukim, so he reads a pasuk, and he takes a break for a few minutes, and he falls asleep even, and then he wakes up and he goes on, Yotza. So it's funny, it could take a very long time to read the Megillah doing it that way, and it seems odd that the person who's reading it. So I've never seen this, but the Mishnah says that works. Hoya kosva. So suppose somebody's writing the Megillah, and as he's writing it, let's say he's copying it from one Megillah to a parchment that he's writing it on, and he reads aloud the pasuk, and then he writes it down, right? And he goes line by line, he reads it out loud, and he writes it down. So it's im kivein libo, if he had in mind, by doing this, speaking it out, to read the Megillah for the purpose of the Megillah, Yotza, he actually fulfilled the mitzvah. It seems strange, but he has fulfilled the mitzvah. Im lav, lo Yotza. But if he was not intending it for that purpose, so if he's just copying it and he wants to make sure by reading it aloud that he gets the words correct, but he's not really intending to fulfill the mitzvah of reading the Megillah, that doesn't work. So now how does it have to be written? So it's got to be written on parchment with a certain kind of ink. And the Mishnah says, Haisa ksuva besam, uba sikra, uba komom, uba kantom. These are various different substances that they could use. They could be their dyes or paints or whatever. It's al haniyar al diftera, or on papyrus, or on very good paper, lo yotza. It has to be achete ksuva ashuris al sefer ubadio. It has to be written in Hebrew script, and it has to be written on parchment. It has to be written with a type of ink, the same type of ink that's used to write a Sefer Torah or to write a mezuzah. The Megillah has to be written on that same type of paper and the same kind of ink as is used for the Sefer Torah. Otherwise, it's not kosher. Now here's one that a lot of people actually confront in our day. Ben ir sheholach lekrach, or ben krach sheholach leir. So we know that in the small cities or in the villages, they used to read the Megillah on the 14th of Adar. Still do, right? And cities that have a wall around them, like Yerushalayim, when do they read the Megillah? On the 15th. So on the 15th. So suppose I'm traveling and I go to Yerushalayim, okay? So, and I come from a place where the Megillah is read on the 14th, right? And now I come to a place where the Megillah is being read on the 15th. So I could go on the 15th and listen to hear the Megillah, but if I'm somebody who comes from a city where it's read on the 14th, so im asid lachzor limkomo, if I'm intending to go home, right? If I'm not making aliyah or not moving to that town or whatever it is, karibim kimakomo. So I should read it, even though I'm in Yerushalayim, I should read the Megillah on the 14th. Even though everybody else is going to hear it on the 15th, but I should read it on the day, which is my day, because I'm intending to go home.
You'll be home on the 14th.
What?
You'll be home on the 14th.
I might not. Suppose I'm still there. So
I don't understand what you're saying then.
So in other words, if I come from a place where the Megillah is read on the 14th,
Right?
and I happen to be in an area where they read it on the 15th,
Right?
I need to hear it on the 14th.
What difference is
Even if you're staying in the area that's going to be on the
Yes.
15th?
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, and it, right. The And suppose I come from a place where it's read on the 15th, and I find myself in a place where they read it on the 14th, right? So I need to hustle and get back to my place here on the 15th. So because if you look again at the commentary in the bottom, it says, where it says Ben Yishus Mano Lekros Megillah Ba'arba Sarba Adar. If I'm in a place where they read on the 14th, Shahalach Lekraf, and I go to a place, to a city Hamukaf Choma, that is surrounded by a wall, Shekorim Boas Megillah B'Chamisha Sarba Adar, that they read it on the 15th. The Ben Krach, or somebody who comes from this walled city, Shalach Le'ir, Shekorim Boas Megillah Ba'arba Sarba Adar, where they read on the 14th, right? So somebody who comes from a place that reads on the 15th, and he finds himself in a city that reads on the 14th. Imosid lachsel imakomo karibim komo. If in the future he's going to go back to where he came from, so ben ir ba'arba asar ba'adar afal pi shahu b'krach, even though he finds himself in this place where they read it on the 15th, uben krach b'chamisha asar ba'adar afal pi shahu ba'ir, and somebody who lives in this walled city and finds himself in a place where we read on the 14th, he does it on the way that he does it where he lives. So that's the point. It's an interesting thing, and people, this is something people confront all the time, right? How many days of Yontif do I keep, right? Because if I go to Israel where they keep only one day, and it's my custom to keep 2 days, so if I'm making Aliyah, well, then I'm an Israeli. But if I'm intending to come back home, right? So there's all kinds of things. People observe it any way they want to, but the Mishnah is telling us, it's giving us, instruction on how things are to be done. So the imlav, and if I'm not intending to return, kari imahem. You read along with the people the way that is observed in the place where you find yourself. Who says mehechan kari adam es megillah v'yotze bo yedei chavaso. So the question is asked, how much of the Megillah do you have to hear in order to fulfill the mitzvah? Do you have to hear the entire mitzvah Megillah being read, or can you read part of it? So the Megillah, I really should have one, so I can kind of do it with you. So the Megillah starts out by Hibe Me'ach Hashverosh, right? But it comes to here's Rabbi Yehuda. Yeah, Rabbi Meir Omer Kula. Rabbi Meir says you have to read the whole thing. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Meish Yehudi. So when Rabbi Yehuda says that once Mordechai is mentioned, that's where your obligation starts. So the beginning part of it, Vahibe Me'ach Hashverosh, you don't have to hear that. And Rabbi Yossi Omer, Rabbi Yossi says Me'achar Dvar Ma'ela. So Rabbi Yossi says that where it begins the actual story of what's happening and how things are going to work out, that's where you have to start from. But the halacha is that we have to read the whole thing, and we have to hear it like what Rabbi Meir says. We have to hear the entire Megillah. You can't just read parts of it. The next Mishnah, Mishnah Dalet, and this one again can be controversial, because it says Hakol Ksherim Likrosis HaMegillah. Everybody can read the Megillah. Anybody can read the Megillah. Chutz mi Cheresh Shota v'Katan. There are 3 exceptions who cannot read the Megillah and fulfill the mitzvah, not only for themselves but for everyone else. So in other words, if I'm reading the Megillah, I have in mind that I am fulfilling a mitzvah myself, but I'm also bringing you along, that you're also going to be fulfilling the mitzvah yourselves. And so there are three types who can't do it. One is a cheresh. It's defined today. They used to say a deaf mute, but today it's basically someone who cannot communicate. So that person can't read it. A shote is someone who's insane or mentally deficient, and a katan is a minor, a child. So it's interesting, who is not mentioned as being excluded? Women, right? And in fact, we have a Baal Korah here, so I'm not going to put him on the spot. But Rashi says in his commentary in this Mishnah, Rashi says that women could read the Megillah because because women are obligated in the same mitzvah just as men. So since women are, I'm going to let you talk.
No, I just want to know if she has to wear a jacket.
I don't know. So somebody told me that the rule of jackets does not pertain tonight on Purim, but
We got a spot too in a room tonight if they want it. It could be all women right in here.
no, women could do it for men.
They-
Rashi says that a woman could stand in the front of the shul
That would pass by
and read it for everybody. Rashi, however, is on this case he's a minority opinion, and I've never seen it done, so it probably is not done. But basically, from the Mishnah, women are not excluded from being able to read the Megillah. So Rabbi Yehuda Machshir B'Katan. Rabbi Yehuda said that if you had a child who was capable, that child could read the Megillah. But now in addition to this, they bring in a couple of other little rules. Ein Korinus a Megillah, we do not read the Megillah. V'lo Molin, and we don't do a bris. V'lo Tovlin, v'lo Mazin. V'kein Shomeres Yom. You can't read the Megillah until the morning. In other words, you can't read the Megillah at daybreak. You have to wait until it starts getting light. And some say that even before, when the morning star rose, you could do it. So we read the Megillah tonight, and that's going to be actually after dark, obviously. But tomorrow morning, as soon as it gets light, you could read the Megillah. Next Mishnah, and it's right after it. It's Kol Hayom Kosher Lekriyas Megillah. You can read the Megillah all day. You know, we do it in the morning because we want to do a mitzvah early, but you can read it all day. V'likros L'kriyas Hallel, and you can say Hallel as well all day long. L'tekiyas Shofar, and on Rosh Hashanah, when we blow the shofar, you can do it all day. It doesn't have to be just in the morning. L'netilas Lulav, and also in terms of the Lulav Nesro, that could be done as well all day long. L'tfilas Musafin, and Musaf, that we daven Musaf, if you Rosh Hashanah, by the time you get finished with Musaf, a lot of times it's getting close to Mincha time, right? Ulu Musafin, and to bring the Musaf sacrifices, Ulu Vidi HaPurim, and I'm going to read the whole commentary with you, so we'll just go through this. But there were certain animals that had to be brought for certain particular types of sins. Ulu Vidi HaMaser, and when Maser was brought, they had a certain statement that they made. Ulavida Yom Kippurim, and also the confession that we make on Yom Kippurim, we confess our sins. That can be done all day long. L'smicha is when you place your hands onto a sacrifice. Someone's going to bring a sacrifice in the temple. Part of the service was that the owners of it would place their hands on top of the animal. The shchita can be done all day long. L'tnufa, that's waving of certain things that had to be waved, like certain of the sacrifices had to be waved, the bikurim were waved, you could do that all day long. The hagasha, that's to bring it close towards the altar. La kamitza lak'tara, and also when you had a korban mincha, which was a meal offering, so the Kohen would take a handful of it, and that was what was put onto the mizbeach and burned. So that could be done all day. The malika is the way that when birds were sacrificed in the temple, those birds they didn't get shechita with a knife, right? Does anybody know how the right the Kohen used his thumbnail to he actually like put it in the back of the bird's neck, and he would cut the windpipe that way with the nail. So, but that could be done all day long. Ula Kabbalah, and the acceptance of the blood. So when they would sacrifice an animal, they slaughter the animal for the purpose of spraying the blood onto the altar. So they would collect the blood. That could be done all day long. Ula Hazaya, and the sprinkling of the blood could also be done all day. Ula Hashkaya Sota, and that when you had a situation where a woman was suspected of committing adultery, so there was a process where the husband would warn her not to be left alone with a certain individual, and then if people saw that she had been alone with him, so then they would go up to Yerushalayim, and they would ask her questions, and part of the process is that she would have to drink this water. certain water, and that would reveal whether she had, by what happened to her after she drank the water, that would reveal whether she was faithful or not. So that could be done during the day. L'arifasa egla, egla aruva, that was if a dead body is discovered between two towns, and nobody knows who that person was, nobody knows how the person wound up there, and what winds up happening is that the two towns, they measure the distance from this body to each of the towns. And the closest one, the elders of the town were obligated to bring a calf. They bring it down to a valley, and they actually would behead it. They would say that we did not have anything to do with this murder, and they would behead the calf. So that could be done during the day. And the Mitzorah, someone who had what we call leprosy, but it was a skin affliction, that could be done to purify that person. That could be done all day long as well. So we're gonna go through the commentary here, because it's a bunch of, even though it's not necessarily all of it having to do with Megillah or Purim, but it's a number of very interesting rules, and here's a chance to hear a little bit about them. So the commentary is on the bottom. If you look on the right column, there's like 4 or 5 lines up from the bottom of the page where it says Be'er Mishnah Hey. Can you see that? Okay, it says Kol Hayam Kosher L'Kriyas Megillah. The entire day is suitable for reading the Megillah, Shenamar, because it says in the Megillah, Vayomim Ahem Nizkarim. So it's Yomim. So the word Yom means day, right? So that means since they say in the Megillah, read during the day, so that's why we can read all day. L'Kriyas HaHalel, and we can read we can say Hallel. So on Rosh Chodesh and on Pesach and Shavuos and Sukkot and so on, we say Hallel. B'moadim u'b'Chanukah shenamar bo, because it says about that. It says Zeh Hayom Asah Hashem, right? That's the famous slogan that we have on our refrigerator that my wife likes to look at every day.
It came from a box of eggs.
It came from a box of eggs that they sell here in one of the supermarkets. It says Zeh Hayom Asah Hashem Nagila V'Smecha Bo. This is the day that God made, right? We should rejoice and be happy in that day. So that, again, that's the day. So we read it during the day. So, and then also it says Mimizrach Shemesh Ad Mavo'o Muhulol Shem Hashem. Another pasuk. This is from Tehillim, also from Psalms. So again, letting us know that Hallel, praises of God, can be done all day long. U'tikiyah Shofar, and blowing the shofar B'Rosh Hashanah, on Rosh Hashanah Shenamar, because it says Yom Trua Yelachem, right? Rosh Hashanah is called Yom Trua. So Yom again means day. So day referring to blowing of the shofar. Ulantilas Lulav B'Chag HaSukkah. So and also taking the lulav on Sukkot, Shenamar, because it says Lekachtem Lachem B'Yom HaRishon. Again, it says take the lulav on the first day, right? So letting us know that this is something that's to be done in daylight. Utfilas HaMusafin, and when we say we daven Musaf on the holidays and on Shabbos, Shemispalim B'Yom Sheyesh Bo Korban Musaf, because we say these things when they're on a day when there would be a Korban Musaf. If we had a temple, a Beis HaMikdash, we'd bring that Musaf sacrifice. V'la Musafin, and to the Musafin themselves, those sacrifices, if we were able to do it. V'la Krovas Korban HaMusafin Shenamar, and to bring the sacrifice, as it says, Davar Yom B'Yomo. That again, when it's talking about bringing the Korban Musaf, the extra additional sacrifice for the holiday, it says it relates to it in its day. So again, it's being done during the day. Utfilas HaMusafin Dina Kumusafin. And so we daven Musaf, we say the Musaf prayer as a substitute, really, for not being able to bring the Musaf sacrifice. So just as the Musaf sacrifice had to be done by day, we daven, we pray the Musaf during the day. Ulavidi Purim, and this one, if the Kohen Gadol committed a sin, so the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, had a different rules related to him as relate to the rest of us. So if he committed a sin based on his own opinion, in other words, he was confronted with a situation and he didn't have Rabbi Zilberstein or Rabbi Eliashiv to ask, he was the authority, and it turned out he was in error. So he now has to bring a special sacrifice, and that's called Par Kohen HaMashiach. And it says, Shenemar Ima Kohen HaMashiach Yecheta Lashmasam, if he committed a sin and he misled the people, V'krivas Chataso, he brings his sacrifice, Par Ben Bakar, and it's got to be a young bull. V'chein Nemar, and it says, Im Kol Adas Yisrael Yeshno V'nelam Davar, and if it turns out that the entire nation is misled and they commit a sin, Me'ena Kol, Vaso Achas Mikol Mitzvahs Hashem, and they did something they were not supposed to do. Ashalo Teyasen, in other words, they were instructed not to do something, and they went and did it. The Kriva Kol Par Ben Bakar Lachatas, and the congregation, this is called the Par Helam Davar Shel Tzibur, whether the congregation was misled and the entire nation committed the sin, and then they would have to bring a particular sacrifice, and it says, V'hu Nikra Par Helam Davar Shel Tzibur, this is called Par Helam Davar Shel Tzibur. Ve'ela Hamaviyin Es HaParim Musvadim Aleim Es HaChet Sheheviim Olav, and they have to say a certain confession that they committed the sin. V'chol Hayom Kosher L'kach, and the entire day is fitting to do this. Shalom Dim Yom Kippurim, because we learn this from Yom Kippur. Shakasubo, because it says in Yom Kippur, V'chiper Ba'ado Ba'ad Beiso, the Kohen is supposed to, when he is going to be bringing sacrifices for the benefit of the people, first he has to bring a sacrifice for himself, right? Because before he can help you, he's got to be clean himself. And so first of all, he brings sacrifices for the benefit of himself, Ubad Beso, and for his family. The kaparas devarim akasav medaber, and the pasuk says, relating to this atonement, v'chol kapara hibayom, and kapara atonement has to be done by day. So they made several steps. So we get back to the young bull that's brought by the Kohen has to be done by day, Shnemar, because it says ki bayom hazeh kaper aleichem. So when it's talking about Yom Kippur, it says ki bayom hazeh. So Yom Kippur is during the day. You do so we know that on Yom Kippur at night we say Kol Nidri and so on, but the main confession of the sins and all that is done during the day. Ulavidi hamaser, and when they brought the maser, they brought the tithes to the Beis Hamikdash. Semersvadim amatan masros, that they would say a certain formula when they brought the masros b'shana revius huvashvius shel shmita, in the 4th and the 7th year of the Shemitah cycle, they brought the maser to the Beis Hamikdash. Kamoshe kasuv, as it says in Devarim, v'amarta levnei Hashem elokecha v'yarti hakodesh min habayis. You have to come into Yerushalayim, bring it with you. So what some people did is they would redeem the produce. They have to take 1/10 of the produce that was grown during that year. They would redeem that with money. Then they would take that money and buy produce that they would have to eat in Yerushalayim. And they would say at that time that I took everything out of the house that was not supposed to be there, right? And it says, that Hashem instruct you on this day. So again, the word day is used, so that's why the Mishnah is saying that these things are fit to be done during the day. Ulevidi Yom Kippurim, and so likewise on Yom Kippur, Shenemar, because it says, V'samach Aaron es shei yodav al rosh ha'sa'ir hachai. So when they had two he-goats, right? Then they would one goat would be sent off and thrown over a cliff, right? And one of them would be sacrificed in the temple. So he put his hands on the one that was going to survive, rather. V'svada alav al kol avonos bnei Yisrael, and he did like a confession, just like we do the al shamnus and al chet. He put his hands on this animal. He said it. Ukvar his karnish akpar hi bayom, and we said that that's going to be done during the day. Shenemar ki bayom hazeh yikaper aleichem. So letting you know that this is something that's done by day. L'smicha, and also the mitzvah of smicha, where you put your hands onto that's laying the hands onto the animal before it was slaughtered and sacrificed. Shesamchen hayadayim al rosh karban lefenei hashchita, that if somebody were bringing a sacrifice in the temple, he would put his hands onto it, because you're supposed to, when you bring a sacrifice, you're supposed to have a thought that it's me being sacrificed. It's like that animal takes the place of my body. It's as if I'm sacrificing myself. So you put your hands, supposed to put actually your entire weight onto the animal, so you're supposed to feel it, that this is something that you're doing. Kamosha Kasuv, as it says, V'yismach yodo arosh karbano, that he placed his hand on the head of his sacrifice, l'shchita, and also for doing the shchita shel karbonos behema, that can be done during the day. Shinamar, because the pasuk says, B'yom zivachem, then the day that you sacrifice it, you slaughter it. V'lom nismicha mishchita, we learn the mitzvah of smicha from the mitzvah of shchita. And so the Mishnah has gone through a whole list of different things that different mitzvahs that we do, and it says that those things can be done during the day, not during the night. And it brought a number of different pasukim that's illustrating why these things are done during the day. And we have sources basically from the Torah or from other sources letting us know that these things have to be done during the day. So I think this is the last Mishnah in Megillah that relates to Megillah itself. So we're going to stop here, and next week. So next week, I guess we're going to continue. Marty, are you continuing your class next week too? Yeah. So as long as we have people who want to come, even though we said that a lot of the classes have stopped for the season, but as long as people still want to come, and next week we're going to get back to how the Gemara treats Jewish civil law. So we're dealing with some real estate issues right now, and if you come back, and you're going to get how civil law was dealt with in the time of the Gemara.